everyone, and welcome back to the MGM Grand. I'm Tyson Alger. I cover the Oregon Ducks for the Oregonian. I'm joined today by Kyle Goon of the Salt Lake Tribune. He covers the Utah Utes. Oregon and the Utah Utes are going on in the Pac-12 semifinals tonight. Oregon beat Utah earlier this year. You were not at that game, but what do you expect to see tonight?
I expect to see both teams kind of trying to figure out the tempo. I mean, obviously Oregon likes to run, and I think Utah kind of wants to run more than they have. I mean, they like to kind of stretch out their half-court offense a lot, but I think they'll try and create some turnovers and get some run and baskets in transition. So I would expect at least to start maybe a fast-paced game, maybe a little sloppy like the last one to start. Yeah. But it'll be definitely interesting to see how those two match up.
Did their start surprise you at all last night? You know, Stanford was in that game, and then it was just a complete blowout in the second half.
Yeah, the start didn't surprise me because that was sort of a continuation of what we saw when they played Washington and Washington State the week before. So Utah was a little sluggish, and you can attribute some of that to kind of playing on the road and having some of those challenges. But yeah, they kind of got in at halftime. Larry said, "Hey, let's play an honest game. I don't think we're playing as hard as we can play, with the effort we can play with," and that really made a difference. And the biggest difference, I think, in the halves is in the first half, Jakob Poeltl, 2 fouls in 5 minutes. Second half, stays out of foul trouble and scores 16 points all in the second half, and that was a huge thing. His rim protection is huge for them defensively and created opportunities for turnovers and points off turnovers.
So this is something I wrote a little bit last night. Joseph Young had a epic second half last night. He put up 30 points, 7 assists, or 7 rebounds, and I think he had about 4 assists or so. It was just a really good game. And coming into it, he had talked a little bit about how they were getting maybe a little motivated by all the backlash of him winning Player of the Year. A lot of people thought maybe it should have been DeLon Wright of Utah or TJ McConnell of Arizona. Do you think it mattered to DeLon at all about not winning that award?
I think DeLon, in his mind, he thought once Utah was swept by Arizona that
was kind of
he probably wouldn't get it. But I think that also speaks to his mentality of, and it's said a lot, but he's very much about the team and thinks about the team's success. And it wasn't even on his list of goals this year to be a Pac-12 Player of the Year. Now, would he have enjoyed winning Pac-12 Player of the Year? Yes, he would have. And certainly his brother Darrell has been very vocal on Twitter about him getting quote-unquote robbed. But, I think you see two very meaningful players to their teams in this game. Both Young and Wright, I think their arguments are similar in that if you took an average Pac-12 starter and put them in their place, in their positions, you probably wouldn't have 2 NCAA tournament teams.
Yeah, sure.
So it's going to be a really fun matchup. I don't think Wright's necessarily going to be on Young. I think it's going to be Brandon Taylor defending Young. And last time out, Young had 14 points. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how those two teams match up.
Yeah. So we're in Vegas, and I believe the line is 7.5 for Utah. I'd say that's maybe a pretty generous line. I think the game might be a little closer than that. I'm not convinced that Oregon is the favorite, even though they're the number 2 seed. Utah's obviously the favorite according to Vegas, but I think this could honestly be like one of the better games of the tournament tonight.
It could be, but
Utah's playing good right now, man.
They played really good in that second half. The one thing about Utah is the closest game they played since December is the 6-point loss to Arizona.
Yeah,
and it's always like a 10-point game either way. Even when they went to Oregon, it was an 11-point game. And Utah has a knack for kind of front running when things are going good. They just extend it and really build up huge leads. But also when they kind of fall back a little bit, like in Eugene, they have trouble kind of coming back late. So it'll be interesting. I think it's not for Utah. The onus is on them to kind of get that advantage early, build it early, and really put Oregon to bed before we're talking the final 3 or 4 minutes of the game.
So we have a late tip tonight. It's 8:45. Is that correct? 8:30, 8:45. 8:45. You can find all my stuff at OregonLive.com/Ducks. Where can we find your stuff?
SLTrib/sports. And so
and he's on Twitter too. It's at
Kyle Goon.
Cool. So check out those 2 sites after the game for complete coverage, and we'll be back doing something tomorrow.